Read it. Alright, everybody has their homework in. Woo, that's it. Thank you. Do you want to have this? Okay. Alright, so today we're going to be kind of reinforcing what we learned about before this, and then we're going to be going on to new concepts about going from simple sentences to the compound sentences that you did as your homework. I have to unfreeze this. Ta-da! So, why do we need to learn how to write sentences and know what each of the parts of the sentences are? I know you're all good writers, you know what you're doing, but it will help your word choice, your sentence fluency, and it helps you to know why you do it and how you can do it consistently. So you're not just writing, you kind of have a plan with where you're going for it. So if you remember when we did that activity with the breaking down the sentences and finding all your verbs and everything like that, like imagine how much better your papers could have been if you did that before you even turned it in. So that's kind of why we're looking at this. So, clause or phrase, this little thing here. Does anybody know? In Kansas City. Phrase. And how do you know that?
No subject or verb.
No subject or verb. Good job. So, a subject. What question does a subject answer? Think back to those sentence strips that we worked on. Yes, who? And so, remember the documentary that you watched a little while ago? Who was the subject of that? Exactly. So, what is the verb question? What is something that it answers?
What each year it was doing.
Exactly. And what is something that Bo Jackson was doing in Kansas City? Yes. He was playing. He played. So, our new sentence would be, Bo Jackson played in Kansas City. Pretty simple. And is that a phrase or a clause? Yes. Good. Because you've got your subject and your verb. And is this an independent clause or a dependent clause?
Independent.
And why is that?
Because it can stand alone.
It can stand alone, yes. If it was dependent, it would probably have one of the words over here, the ones that we call thumb words. Does anybody remember the fancy word? Subordinating conjunction. Nice. And so, we are going to work with your table partners, and I'm going to pass these out. We're going to make this sentence a little more interesting. So, you're going to take this, and you can start with the sentence you have, and you're going to have to add a few things. You're going to need to add a direct object. You need to try and remember what that question is. An adjective and an adverb. You can add more of those if you like, but I want to see the most creative sentences you can think of. It's got to involve this, but then it has to add these things. I mean, you can just, you don't have to make them. Yes, it needs to be based on what the documentary you read was. You can't just like make stuff up. Yes. And if you can look back at your sentence strips, but we're trying to kind of remember what you know. So, what does a direct object do?
Direct object. The verb that's
It's now. It's what they're doing it to. So it would be, what is Bo Jackson like doing it to? What is he playing? Like what is things doing to that verb? Yeah. So then that would be a direct object.
So we're just adding to the Bo Jackson.
Yeah, so take this sentence, and then you have to add these things in it to make it a better sentence.
How dare you?
You can break it apart can transform it however you want. You just have to make sure that Bo Jackson played are the subject and verb, and in Kansas City is a phrase. What kind of phrase is that? Does anybody know? What kind of phrase in Kansas City is? Prepositional phrase, yes, because in would be the preposition. So, you can have that also.
Bo Jackson played baseball.
Even though this is the subject, it doesn't have to be the first word in the sentence. You can add things before or after. So. You need to do one sentence with all of the things. It's going to be a rockin' sentence when it's done. Oh.
See how easy that is? I hate the English language even more each and every day.
See, but you wouldn't have been able to express that without the English language first.
Exactly why I hate it, but like I need it.
It is. It's a necessary evil.
It's like Oreos. I hate them because they give me the
Like
joy.
cars. You hate it because it's constantly costing you gas, but you need a car.
Professional has 2 F's, right? Not 2 F's.
Alright, I'm gonna give you guys 1 or 2 more minutes to try and come up with something. You gotta focus in. Yeah, anything with, usually if it's got the ly, what is it? Yes, so you can pretty much throw anything in there that you think would be the way that you play. Yes, so professional is an adjective too, baseball, which is the direct object. And where's your adverb? And that's describing a noun. No, it's not. That's not. An adverb is describing either a noun or no, it's an adjective or so where's your verb? So how is the way you can describe that? How did you play?
Did not.
Yes, that's great. Yes. All right. So I think most of you have the sentences done. I want to see some examples. Can you read yours for us?
Bo Jackson effortlessly played professional baseball. Shut up. Bo Jackson effortlessly played professional baseball for the famous Kansas City Royals team.
Great. So what would be your direct object for that?
The Kansas City Royals team. Baseball.
Baseball. Because the question, does anybody want to read the question that the direct object asks?
To whom or what did they do it to?
Yes, to who or what did he do it to? So the verb is play. What did he play? Yes, exactly. So what is an adjective you had? Famous, yes. And what is an adverb you had? Effortlessly, because he played it. How did he play it? Effortlessly. Can I have one more example?
Bo Jackson played baseball excellently in beautiful Kansas City.
In beautiful Kansas City, yes. So your adjective wasn't describing Bo, it was describing Kansas City, which is also right. Anybody else want to share? Alright, go for it.
That's one sentence. That's one sentence.
We'll see if you did it right.
Bo Jackson played baseball with the Royals for 1 season in Kansas City before he started busting people's heads open and quickly capturing the hearts of the entire country for the Los Angeles Raiders as one of the greatest running backs in the history of national football.
She's trying to make it the best sentence we could, so that's what I did.
I think you did all the.
Success.
I did.
All right, very good. Awesome job. Okay, so my example was not as fun as yours. The amazing Bo Jackson powerfully played baseball in Kansas City. So now we know that even though it's a lot more fancy, it's still what we'd call a simple sentence. So now that you know simple sentences, what would happen if we added another clause to the end of that? Yes, it's the same thing that you were doing on your homework. And that would be, we're going to start with the ones with coordinating conjunctions. Does anybody know what coordinating conjunctions are? Give me an example.
Or,
And, nor,
Yes.
or, yes.
or, not but, or, yet, so.
Awesome, nice.
Memorized
And then the I's represent,
Independent clauses.
yes, which is the ones that can stand alone. So you need to have a few rules to make sure you're doing this right. The rules to remember. What are the 3 things required to have an independent clause?
Subject,
Nope, commas
verb,
are in this one. The subject, a verb.
and,
Nope, that one's
No,
optional.
no coordinating, or
No subordinating conjunction.
Yeah, it needs to be a complete thought. So if you have a subordinating one in there, then it's going to make it a D and not an I. Then the next thing you need to remember is that commas are required whenever you're doing, like you can't just have an independent clause, a fanboy, and another independent clause, because if you forget your comma, you're creating a run-on sentence. And that is going to make the red squiggly lines, and we want to avoid the red squiggly lines. And the last one is we're doing coordinating conjunctions, not subordinating conjunctions, because that is an entirely different lesson. Yes, green. Red is misspelled words. Thank you. So, to help us with what we're doing, we've got our coordinating conjunctions, kind of, in case you don't know what you would use this for, a lot of times that's kind of in place of the word because, and so you would say, oh man.
Well, Jackson played baseball, or he had lots of practice.
Yeah, Bo Jackson played baseball, comma, or because he was a very good, yes, he was, exactly.
Well, he was a
But he was a
It's
jolly
like,
good
it's like
fellow.
you use for proper English.
Yes, it makes you sound fancier, so you can always use that. We've got and, which connects things. Yes, do you have a question?
If you use because in this format, will it work, or would you have to take up a comma?
Because would make it a subordinating conjunction. And so that would be a dependent clause. It's not a coordinating one, and so technically you wouldn't need the comma there. So yeah, good question though. Because a lot of people use that, or they say like for fun, and they don't use it as the coordinating conjunction, they just use it as another word to make the preposition, and that's wrong. And then you've got nor, which is kind of a weird one. It's sort of a negative, and you have to have a negative in your first independent clause to be able to use nor for your second one. So, like, you wouldn't say, we had a really good time, nor did we eat pizza. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you need to say, like, we did not have a good time, nor did we get any cake. Like, that's bad and another bad. So, that's a good one for that. But would be kind of opposites, and it's usually something not very good. Like, well, we tried really hard, but we really just kind of failed. Or would be options. So if you have options like, well, you could buy a red Ferrari, or you could go to college. Like, both
I
of those
take
are
the red
some
Ferrari
options.
and then
You
drive
have
to
to have
college.
your coordinating conjunction.
I'll buy the red Ferrari and then go to college.
Well, first you go to college so you can make enough money to get the red
Or
Ferrari.
you can steal the Ferrari, I mean.
The only reason
Then
why
you
go
would
to
be in
college
jail.
for a red Ferrari
Not necessarily, not if you get caught. You ever play GTA 5? They have a lot of ways to get away with that.
Yet is when we get a lot of times confused by people. Does anybody know sort of a reason that you would use yet?
Like, show the bright side.
Yeah. And what is one that's up here that you a lot of times could switch it with?
But
Yeah. And so if I said, we didn't win today, yet we could win tomorrow. That seems like
that's like a campaign.
there's a chance. There's always a chance.
She was tight-fisted when she said
And then our last one is just so. And that's more of a cause and effect. You don't want to say so, like, that's one where you could probably use it in a way that wouldn't be a complete sense at the end. But a way to remember that is if you're writing a sentence, you can make sure you put your subject and your verb above it. And if it doesn't have that, then you know you pretty much just stuck a phrase on the end. And so you should probably go back and fix that. Do we have Miss Annie, do we have them graded? Do you know kind of?
I do.
All right.
Oh no, that's what you're doing.
Do you want to give them back to them, or I'm not sure where you'd like to head at this point, unless.
Have they written an I, comma, fanboy I sentence?
No. Do you want them to do it off the one that they already have? Okay.
That
So
sounds like a good idea.
you are going to take the sentences that you have, and with your partner, choose a comma and a fanboy, and then make another clause off the back.
No, that's too easy, because they did well on their homework. They did well. Compared to 6 hours, they did well.
Good.
So why don't you go ahead and assign them, each table, a letter.
Oh.
Otherwise, they'd all pick and but, so don't
Yes.
pick anybody and or but.
All right. I'm going to go with 4. And.
No and or but.
Never mind.
Oh, so there's. We're just gonna have a couple extras. You get nor. You get or.
For nor.
Yet.
I love it.
No. You're back to 4.
No.
And we're gonna go with nor. So we're fine sentences for those. And if you have to adjust your first sentence a little bit so that it makes sense, like especially with the nors, then you can do that.
And give the pencil to your other table mate. If you did the writing of the sentence, the other person writes this time. So switch the paper and pencil.
You can start with the different sentence, but you have to make it make sense. That's what I mean about the sentences still have to be about the documentary you read, but they don't have to be exactly the same if it's not going to fit. So yeah, you can switch it.
Okay, she writes this down.
Oh,
I think we should add that.
honestly, I thought everybody does.
Oh, write that down.
And it can actually be a continuation of the sentence you have right now. 'Cause
I'd rather not.
you have an independent clause on your paper right now, correct? So you should right now just put a comma at the end of it, add your fanboy, and write another independent clause. That's what you should